something new for us, John.
Yeah,
Only because we're both busy tonight and we couldn't do the chat show, but tea break with two psychics for a change.
Yeah, well, I use that term loosely, psychics. I prefer to use the term intuitive.
Yeah, I know, but it's like,
for some reason,
people don't understand the word intuitive either sometimes.
Sometimes they don't, do they? Yeah. We can probably help them with that, though.
We've got a good subject today, John, and we're talking about dealing with rejection. And I think the reason I've chose that is there's been a lot of people lately who come in to see me who've been dealing with rejection, either in love lives, not getting the right job, or they feel rejected because of the type of person they are. So rejection is a big subject.
Yeah, well, it certainly is, and I don't think there's any human on the planet probably who's old enough to walk and talk that hasn't experienced or felt some kind of rejection in their lives. Even as I mean, some of the issues that we have around rejection is due to early childhood wounds, for example. Even little rejections from our parents that might not mean anything to them, who have been potentially very loving parents. But that little offhand, experience when you're a little 5 or 6 year old child and your mum walks away from you instead of coming over and picking you up when you needed the extra comfort. These little things can last a long time and well into adulthood, and we sometimes don't realize just how much of what we feel is because of very early experiences. And that's even for those who have had a good upbringing, without taking into account those who have had challenging upbringings.
Yeah, I think, in a therapy sense, when people coming in, there's so many different examples under hypnotherapy and regression of rejection, or they felt rejected but not understood why they've been rejected, when sometimes it wasn't a rejection, it just like the father couldn't be there or something like that, or the mother was being awkward, or vice versa. And because you're a child, you don't understand until you become older. And I think it is such a wide subject, and it's like, and I've got a little video and I'll share it on the page later on tips of dealing with rejection. And it's a very, very deep subject, rejection, because we often feel very, very hurt. We can be angry, and it can turn into a frustration. It can also be turned into a positive as well. Sometimes it can refocus you to say, right, I'm going to do better next time.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, I think that's essentially the main takeaway that we've just done at the beginning of the show. Is actually learning how to turn it into a positive. The problem with rejection is that it affects those kind of classic areas of confidence and self-esteem and things like that. And so it's important to kind of do the self-care, when we've experienced some kind of rejection. And sometimes, small things can cut deep as well. We sometimes don't appreciate just how much they can, let alone when something significant happens, like losing a partner. So we really need to dive right into that self-care at the very outset, at the very beginning, to help ourselves, regain that lost self-esteem, regain that confidence to get back out in the world again.
Yeah, I remember it was one of my angely kind of psychic friends, and I was feeling a bit down through a relationship, and he says, "Remember, Derek, rejection's God's protection." It's like, and it's true in some sense. When we're trying something that's not working, we have to try something different, and that's our pal Steve's. One of our long-term pals, Steve's saying, he used to always say to us, "If you don't like the situation, change it." And I think that's true, and I think that's what a lot of us don't do. We don't change the situation. We do the same thing all the time. We end up in the same place until we realise, maybe in our late 50s, it's time to change.
Well, I'm later into those 50s than you are, Derek, and and I've experienced a lot of this. It is what it is. I mean, and sometimes the harshest truths are the ones that, when you acknowledge them and realize them and take them into account and try and learn from them, that's when things begin to get a little bit easier. Is acknowledging harsh truths, counterintuitively, actually helps things to get easier as you move forward, because then you're actually dealing with something as opposed to burying it. And one of the things, again, what our friend, Steve used to say always is, if you don't like a situation, change it. Absolutely. But it's not as easy as that when you're feeling the emotion in the moment. And we have to get past that initial feeling of the initial emotions that are connected with that feeling of rejection. We kind of have to get past that stage and move forward. And for that, we really need to, I think, allow ourselves to actually have those feelings and give ourselves a space for it. Because it's only by actually allowing them to come up for ourselves that we can actually release them, as opposed to burying them and then potentially creating future resentments.
Yeah. Just quickly reacting to the chat. And hello, Jackie, Malakia, Mo, Leanne, Michelle, how are you doing? And we're going to do some card readings and card pulling at the end, for the last half hour or something. But just now, we're talking about, with a bit of banter as well, about rejection and dealing with rejection. So if you've got experience of rejection, or tips or solutions, or just something that you've struggled with, that's the type of questions that we're taking just now. And I'm saying that to Jackie, because life is full of challenges, and rejection is one of these challenges, John, isn't it?
Well, yes, and it's one. Well, I mean, I always say, I mean, when it comes to life experience, my definition of experience is basically the sum total of learning and wisdom gained from every effort we've ever made in our lives. And rejection, doesn't always come because of a mistake, but rejection always comes with a lesson, just like all our other experiences come, they're really coming for us in the form of lessons. But again, that's more of the slightly longer term view of rejection, as the life lessons that we can learn from it. The shorter term, effect is all the feelings and emotions we feel because of it when it initially happens. And that's the thing that we have to initially deal with. And then, having dealt with that, we can move forward and think about the long-term lessons.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that you do learn a lot from rejection. I always turn it into a positive. It's like I always feel a little bit after being ill, and I wanted to get more fresh air out, and I got into my garden. And I know you and your sister had a plot, and
Yes,
you
we did.
enjoyed
Yes.
gardening. And so maybe picking your brains now. And I've got kind of addicted to the relaxing nature of gardening, the fresh air, and watching things grow from tiny wee seeds. And it's fascinating. And I just love it. And I applied that they're looking for volunteers, and I was a full-time part-time coordinator. That'll be good. It's a bit of escaping from the heavy mental health stuff I did. And I applied for the job, and it was like I had only a day to apply for it. I didn't get it, and I felt quite rejected. But in the long term, it's actually saying, well, you need to volunteer and learn more about gardening, because although I'm a good public speaker, good at helping people, and it's a good community project, it's made me think, well, I need to learn more about gardening, because that's what didn't get me the job, because I had to understand what the volunteers do. Well, I'm not a gardener, although I love gardening. So it's encouraged me to go and do more gardening training, you could say, or learn or speak, to have that little bit edge on somebody else. And I think a lot of it is when you get rejected, that we look at things that can give us that edge. And getting that sort of edge and getting that head start is when you get rejected, you're often told why. If you ask, and a lot of people don't ask why. And a lot of these people want to help you because they're encouraged that you applied for the job in the first place. But they'll say, Derek, you just haven't got enough gardening experience. That's all it was. Other people did. So encourage you, and rather than feel rejected, feel encouraged.
Well, you can definitely feel. Well, I think where you might be coming from here is a lot of people do manage to look at rejection as a form of challenge. So for example, if you're rejected for a job offer or something like that, you can consider that a challenge. Another way of and deal with it that way and move forward positively and go and get the next one by taking that course or learning something, as you say. Another way of looking at it is in terms of thinking of it as an opportunity. You could. I tend to think. I mean, on a spiritual level, I tend to believe that every time something passes over us, and you know, we may have that feeling of rejection because an opportunity we think we had doesn't manifest for us. But normally it's because something, and I tend to really believe this, and I really feel it holds true. Something better is always around the corner. And if you and I think if you look at it from that perspective, you know, that can help you deal with those feelings of rejections that I've been talking about. You can realize actually this is something I need to leave behind because it hasn't been right for me now at this time. Perhaps I've not been ready for it, or perhaps that opportunity has not been ready for me. But there's something even better around the corner. So what's coming for me next, and look forward to the thing that's next instead of concentrating your energy on the thing you think you've just lost.
Exactly. I feel that's great advice, John. And I noticed we've got somebody on Twitch there asking, how does tarot cards work? We'll demonstrate the use of tarot cards later on. And any cards or any mode of divining or divinity, it's just a tool. What really works, and this is why we're talking about rejection, is how you deal with things inside your head or in the heart and get into that touch. And that's what tarot cards, all these tools, pendulums, they just help you open up a little bit, and they give you an insight sometimes. But the best person that's going to change you is you. The best person that's going to answer the question is you. We can give guidance, and we can see options. John is probably the better word that we can see when we're talking in these shows and whatnot. We can see options for people. We've also got to remember that sometimes when we're live on air, we are restricted to what we can say sometimes because of the Consumer Act, John, isn't it? We're under that now.
Yeah, well, we can go there. You know, this is for, you know, it's a classic line now on any website by someone who does tarot, whether or psychic work of any kind, I suppose you could say. You know, please treat this as entertainment only. You know, and this is literally just because of consumer law. And we just have to be careful sometimes in covering the legal basis. But you're right, Derek, of course. Tarot cards are an aid to intuition, is how I would describe it. And that's exactly what it is. So they're full of symbology, numerology, astrology, and things like that, if you understand the different aspects and meanings and what have you. And in drawing them randomly, you are, you know, by virtue of synchronicity, if you like, arriving at potential answers around the energy around a situation or person. Potential, but not set in stone. It's only saying that if the energies carry on as they are now, then this may or may this may happen. This might be the kind of direction it's going in. The point of a tarot reading, though, isn't to tell you something is going to happen or is set in stone. The point is only to give you guidance of what may happen or the current energies around the situation, so that you can be empowered to make best decisions for yourself in your own life. You know, and that's where a tarot reading can have a more of a therapeutic value. But again, it's absolutely not set in stone. It's and the power always lies with you, and only you can change your life.
Just answering the question that is it Marky Zento or whatever his name is there's called. Can, you know, I'll highlight his question just to kind of show, right? Right. Question: can tarot cards tell me if my partner's really right for me? Now, the first thing I would say to you is, what is your feelings? Do you feel she's right or wrong? And if you're questioning that, is it the fear of being rejected as some of the subjects we've got, or is it your own fears that stop you moving forward? If you feel excited, you quite like her, there's a lot of things you're compatible with, then I would say trust that gut feel and go with it. But as you're on there, quickly pull the card is new mental start. So it's how you look at it. And yes, as John said, the cards are just a wee tool. And you know, if you want a more detailed session on that, then speak to me and John at the end of this, and we can tell you things in private, because I don't always like to burst out what we're picking up in public. It's like John, because you know, we have to get a reaction as well. We'll have to get to see how we react to that. But the question that we're really saying today is can we overcome rejection or that fear of rejection? What do you think, John?
Oh, well, can we overcome the fear of rejection? Not completely, possibly. Again, as I was talking about earlier on, a lot of our fears, the majority of our fears, have got deep roots, and many are most all the way back to childhood, and a lot of them are quite subtle. And again, it doesn't mean that we've had bad parents. A lot of the time, we've had very loving parents who've looked after us, and we can still feel little rejections that can carry on throughout our adult life, let alone for those who have got particular difficulties because they've had more difficult childhoods. So the idea that you might be able to resolve and leave all your fears behind is something that isn't impossible. I believe it's certainly possible. I believe never say never, but on the other hand, it does require a great deal of personal dedication to your own inner work. Over a period of time, it requires understanding that kind of recovery doesn't happen overnight, that it requires some work on your behalf. If you're willing to put in work on your own behalf and your own healing for any, deep wounds that might be underlying the natural fears that you have, then you could come out the other end feeling a lot less fearful. But it's to suggest that they might all go away completely. I think that might just be a dream rather than a reality for most people.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong in some respects, but I can only say what I think.
I found when I'm doing regression or hypnotherapy, and there's people who have maybe had difficult relationships with family members or whatever, and they may have felt rejected or felt that lack of love. But when we reject back to the childhood, and example, as somebody was talking about this last week in a chat show, as somebody who went back in a past life regression, and I couldn't get her past the age of 3-year-old. And so we went in there. So let's go there. There's something obviously we need to clear here. And we went, and she was up in Glentara in Deeside, and she was swimming in the water. And this is going back to the kind of maybe the 70s, because she's kind of older than me. So I'm a 60s baby, so it's 60s, 70s. And she was in the water, and the river tried to take her away, and she had no clothes on. And that time we just get thrown in the water, And then her father grabbed her and took her in and said, "What are you doing?" Grabbed her and gave her a little smack. And her mum and dad had a difficult relationship, and their father left. But he was always there for her birthdays and whatnot. There was always a strained relationship because she thought she was abused by her father because he smacked her, right? But he saved her life. Now, yes, it's wrong in the smacking aspect, but we've all done it. What the hell are you doing? And grabbed them, and we've all done that at that time. But now we're better educated. We don't smack them, kids. But she was in her 60s when she came to see me, John. And then her father, who was dying of cancer at that time, this is going back a few years ago, she realised that she'd held this onto this because her mum and her father separated, and there was also friction. And because she's had relationship issues herself, she understood how there was a distance between her and her father. And she thanked me because she spent the last year of his life with him and created new memories and kind of forgave herself and the father and moved forward. And that was the power of hypnotherapy and also the counselling that went with that I gave her. But she had to realise and see that herself with the regression. And so, yes, I think we can help and assist and guide and heal people in that sense. We can't say officially we're allowed to heal people because we're not allowed. But she healed herself by seeing it herself. And very often, when we're in that moment of the fear and the hate and the rejection, we don't see the other things. You know what I mean, John?
No, well, that's it. Yes, if you're kind of absorbed with emotion, then you've got a limited view. It's almost a kind of blinker vision. You've got a limited view of the stuff that's, of other aspects or other considerations that you might want to take into account. It's only with a clear head, on the other side of something, you can sometimes look back in hindsight and see, have realizations that you didn't have before. So the lady you're talking about, what's the benefit of hindsight after having done a lot of work, realized that she could forgive herself and her father and move on and have that time with him while he was still here. And the lesson there is that we can all do that. Sometimes when we're in that place, where we're feeling a little bit blinkered, we don't realize that we don't know what we don't know. And so we don't know that we should do something about it, and that's kind of the situation that we sometimes find ourselves in. So I feel like saying it's important to try to always have an open mind, even if it feels like you're completely justified in feeling a negative emotion, whether it's towards yourself, self-hate of some kind, whether it's because of rejection, whether it's an esteem or a confidence issue, or whether it's something that's being directed at someone else in a way of blame. It's important to try to have an open mind and take a step back, and to have enough faith to do your own inner work, and trust that you'll come up with the right answers at the end of it, because I promise you will.
Mm. And it is. It's so, but it's a great subject to talk about, because a lot of us just now, and even and we've wrote and we spoke about this a lot in the kind of last couple of years, the lockdowns, the COVID stuff, and all that. And sometimes we felt rejected because our voices weren't being listened to. And very often that inspires you to link to others who do listen to us, who feel the same way. And by linking with others who feel that rejection or the same feeling, because they're not being listened to by an organisation or whatever, and they unite. And that's what the trade union, because I come from a trade union background, you know me, John.
Hmm.
And by uniting and then using the power of persuasion, education, and that rejection turns into something positive. You know what I mean? So there's lots of ways to look at it. You don't have to be on your own. That's what I'm saying. If you feel rejected for a certain thing or item or whatever, there's always groups of other people that feel the same way and how they deal with it. So you can ask for help from above by going inside and just allowing your mind to give you that insight, or you can go online, you can speak to people, go to a group. You don't have to feel isolated with your rejection. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, well, that's right. I mean, one of the most important things you can do probably is to seek out company of those who you know and love, who can give you support, and whenever you're having some kind of issue. And one of the things that I found most of my life, I found most difficult actually, was going to the people who are most important to me and sharing with them when thank you, Michelle, for saying well said, John. I appreciate that. Um, you know, um, and going to people who are important to me, who I love and who I know loves me, and sharing with them when I've got some kind of serious issue or problem, whether it's a feeling of rejection because a relationship hasn't worked out, whether I've made a mistake and could use a little bit of support. We all need that comfort and support from people who we know care about us, and we have to have the courage and try to have be willing to be vulnerable in a sense, and be willing to go to people who can help when we need it. And that's the greatest comfort that we can have. So that's a very important consideration.
Yeah. On my Patreon website, membership site, I've got some good tools there that can help with rejection, and a lot of it's meditation. So it's just something for people to look at. It's a small fee to join or whatever. And I need to get your link on your website, John, so I can stream that in the ticker in the bottom. But there's always someone you can come to and talk to. And you can go through the NHS and ask for counselling. There's a long waiting list. And this is one of the arguments that me and John have been pushing for, and a lot of our therapists, is because we work in a holistic field and it's complementary to the NHS. We're not alternative healers or whatever you want to call us. We want to work complementary with the NHS and stuff like that. And it's not scary coming to speak to people like us. You can just come in for a reading, you're seeking guidance in some way, because we're counsellors and we train very hard behind the scenes. We're not just card readers. And sometimes that's the hook to get you to come in. And we're there to say, when we come up with a reading, there are options, and we'll demonstrate that in a few minutes, the reading side of what we do. But we're there to help and assist you. And that's why we're always learning, John. The amount of courses we've done and learn about different things, we continually learn. And one of the new things I've learned over the last 3 or 4 months is the bars acciousness, the bars. And it's all about certain points in your head and how that can change things. And it's just like if anyone's in acupuncture or meridians and stuff like that, it's similar. how you can tap in, and all these different things that we've learned over the years. And some that, some intuitive things that I've taught you, John, and you've taught me things, and we love sharing these things. And this is what the idea of these chat shows are coming on, is sharing our insights and to get feedback from yourself. So if anyone's got a specific question on rejection, or how they're dealing with it, how they're feeling about rejection, then fire it through in a question just now, and we'll try and help and assist you. And in a few minutes, we'll go on to kind of like maybe pull more cards and open up the subject to other situations, and to help you today and this morning. I hope you're having your cup of tea, because I forgot to have mine.
Well, I've got mine.
And relaxing, John. So
I'm just sitting here nice and chill. It's good.
Because I did put on a kettle, but I forgot to put the tea bag in the cup. But I know what it was. Is my uncle George? He gave me a phone beforehand, and he's the person that does the marketing for. Well, he helps me and John sometimes. And he's going to come on and do a chat show with me, basically for aimed at therapists and people like me and you, John, on how to use Google more effectively. And I know you've got some experience with that, and using all the free access, so we can, help small businesses and whatnot expand their Google presence and stuff like that. So that'll be an interesting one, John. I'll maybe invite you on as a guest as well, John, because we know that you do websites and you're good at the marketing as well. And that'll be something to help a lot of people who are therapists out there, and expand.
Well,
or even promoting a podcast or something,
Well, that's it. It's part of my function, it's part of my role. One of the things that I do is to provide guidance and advice, professional advice for people specifically in the spiritual community, who want to have a internet online presence, whether it's a website, or whether it is to do with search optimization, whether it's to do with Google and whatever else. So people who are looking for that kind of advice can also come to me for that.
Yeah, and we might be missing some of the questions because they're supposed to, because we've got an all-in-one kind of software here. But I'm seeing that Malcolm's on, and I've got my cousin Australia's watching. Because we're on different platforms, we're not getting a true number of people here, John. Claire is on.
Yeah.
She was on the guest the other week, and she's a developing, or I would say she is a very good psychic medium. Yeah, great expertise on crystals and stuff like that. And she's got a wee online shop. And Mars watching, Ling Sangster, a friend from the past. I know they're watching on my homepage.
I was going to say there as well, I was just looking at Claire's website for the first time yesterday. It's actually a really lovely website, and the crystals she's got there are incredible. I definitely recommend having a look at her shop. It's really cool.
Yeah. Now here's Angela. We're not seeing a question here, but I'll read it out to you, John. I think most of the emotions, they are often a feeling of soul reflection. Feeling rejected by others in the world indicates we are really rejecting a part of ourselves. So as you said, going within is the inner key work. I haven't got, because it's not coming up when the comments there, but it's on the other platform. And you're right, Angela, and I think we are what we reflect sometimes, and very often if we're with negative people, right, who reject us, and it is God's protection, and we try to get their love, their attention, really we should be walking away, because they're the ones that got the problem, not you. And I feel that in a lot of the people that come and see me, John, in a relationship sense, they try, and they get into this coping strategies just because they've got kids. It's like, me, I walked out at 2 kids, I was worried about them, but I had to look after myself first, and you've seen me all my life. And look at the difference after that. I became a lot happier, whatever, and I ended up with kids full time anyway. Now that's my personal journey. You've got different personal journeys as well, feeling rejected. And it is life. And I found a totally different aspect of myself when I left my wife then. And hence what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world.
Mm-hmm.
This is another world. This is another way of saying, like we can sometimes say as above, so below, or you can think of it as the, law of correspondence, and whichever way you want to think of it, it's a basic principle that what is going on inside you I realize I may be kind of harping a little bit about this, but it's just because it's so important. What's going on inside you is going to reflect in your outer world. And this is why I really strongly advocate for doing that in our work, is to finding the root underlying causes behind different problems, issues, traumas that we've got. Because when you do that, you will be amazed at the change and difference in your outer world, in your outer life. And I can promise you, without getting personal about it, I know this from personal experience. That's all I can say. It really works.
Yeah, and although we've learnt all these things, we don't always apply them to ourselves, John, but there's times when we go through, I'd say, challenges in our life, then we do apply them because we say, well, I better try this. I tell everybody else to try it, and then we try it ourselves. And
we'll have to take our own advice. I mean, one of the most important things about doing what we do, Derek, as well, is to be your own first client. Because you can't help anyone else if you haven't helped yourself first. You have to be in a good place yourself. You have to have resolved anything that you've got inside you for the most part, or at least have started reasonably on the journey before you can expect to be able to share what you've learned with others. So what we're sharing with you is really coming from a place of experience.
Yeah, and definitely, I think over the years that we've had, I remember the first sort of experience of rejection in an adult life was the trade union stuff. I remember going to the airport trying to recruit people and being pushed away, and I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, and all that. But in some ways, it made me more determined, and I used to feel that being involved. By being rejected, it actually made me more determined. And you know what I did after that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it can, again, that's an example of when you take it as a challenge.
Yeah.
Rejections that are more on a sort of professional level and less personal level is easier to take as a personal challenge, in a sense, as opposed to being offended by it and taking it on a deeper personal level. You can kind of pick yourself up and say, well, I'm going to do it better next time. I'm going to learn what I have to learn here, and I'm going to just move forward. I'm not going to let this beat me. And it's great to have that kind of attitude that nothing is going to beat me. I'm not going to let this beat me. This is difficult. It's hard as hell, but I'm going to win, and nothing's going to stop me, and I'm just going to keep going regardless. And that kind of determination and courage just to push yourself forward can do an awful lot for you. And it works well when it comes to things like professional stuff. For more personal stuff, you do still need to do the inner work first. But moving forward, it's great to have that kind of drive and motivation. Because it'll keep you going. It'll keep that momentum going, and you'll be amazed at what you can do.
I remember that I kept getting thrown off platforms because of my trade union stuff, and I went to how do you say, a different rig, and I went to another rig, so I just recruited more people. I thought, that's great, I'm getting around to all the rigs, all the platforms. So it was quite good. And it was actually quite a good thing to get rejected and put off platforms, because I got to see different ways of people working and different chefs and learn more. So in some ways, the company did me a favour.
Yeah, well, I mean that definitely happens. I mean, when I found myself, not that long ago, looking for a job again, because of course, I'm not only doing this, I'm also working for a living for the time being. Until I can try to build this up again, a little bit more. Under, the circumstances of the last few years, I hadn't been working in an employed capacity for a few years. And so I had to go back to work, but I had 20 years experience or something in hospitality. But I found myself getting rejected even sometimes by the same companies who I'd been previously employed by. And I couldn't really understand it. I think part of it was just because if you're out of it for a while, they would rather have someone with more recent up-to-date experience. And so here was me wondering whether there was a bit of ageism going on there. I was blaming things. Am I too old? Am I not going to be able to do it anymore? And things like that. And I was feeling a little bit down about it. But actually, I ended up getting the job that ended up perfect for me, exactly the right amount of hours, not too much, not this stress of the roles that I'd had previously. Nice little place where I get to go on with it and do my own thing and be, and just do the job. And just enough money to supplement me at the moment so that I can keep going and get the bills paid. I ended up with exactly the right job that I needed after being rejected by about 2 or 3 different people before that. So it's absolutely the case. Every time you get rejected by someone, it's an opportunity. You're being you're leaving that behind because there's something better around the corner for you. This is what I always say. And for me, that time there was something better around the corner for me. I just had to pick myself up and keep going, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's often the case. So, as I said, we'll share some of the tips for dealing with rejection. I'll post up after this chat show. But on the subject of psychics, it's like, and very often we can't get
Oh,
the
we're
right
back on
word.
that again.
Yeah,
Intuitives.
very often we can't get the right word to describe what we do and whatnot. And even the meaning of a psychic doesn't really mean what it means, if you know what I mean. And I've had a lot of rejection over the years because of my belief system and because I talk to angels or fairies or dead people, whatever, and then we often get criticised for it. And is it real or whatever? And it can sometimes hurt. And it doesn't matter how many demonstrations I've done or how many things and the love and the joy we bring through to those lost. But I always say to people in a mediumship sense, right, when we're bringing people through, they might have advice for us. We don't have to take that advice. And the only person that can change is you. It's nice to get advice, but the only person, our biggest wisdom is ourselves and what's within ourselves and what we learn. So it's like I've had friends who've learned to accept me for what I am. And now my biggest critics are now my biggest fans. So in time, if you just keep that belief system, if you believe you're right, then just do what you feel is right. And then you follow your gut. And you've done that, John, a lot of your stuff on the spiritual, psychic side of you. You've just stuck at it.
Oh, I know. I was just smiling to myself when you were talking about that, because I remember some of the difficulties that you had with one or two of our mutual friends. Oh yeah, he thinks he's psychic kind of idea. But it took me a fair amount of time. Well, it took me, basically having you land me in it and just dump me in a situation where I had to do it before I would actually go and do it. And a big part of that was just worrying about what people I knew would think about me if I said, "Oh, by the way, I do tarot cards." Are people going to still take me seriously? Will I start losing friends? Will my Facebook friends list suddenly start shrinking as people just fade away into oblivion? Oh God, John's doing all that woo-woo stuff. We don't want to know him anymore. And it might seem like a silly thing to say or a silly fear to have. Of course, any friends that are genuine good friends are still going to stay with you. Of course, they're not just going to not be friends anymore. They might try to poke a little fun at you if they don't believe in things like that. Fair enough, but they're not. If you've got a genuine good friend, they're not really going to do that. But the fear was real. And it took me a long time to even get around to mentioning anything spiritual on my own Facebook page. Honestly, after living the life I've had, where I often say I was more dragged up than brought up. I spent a lifetime in different industries, including 20 years in hospitality. And so much time behind bars, working with people and getting all the kind of rough banter and what have you, to suddenly turning and say, "Oh, by the way, I do tarot cards." And you can imagine, and it is difficult to put yourself out there, when you first do it, and it takes courage. And I did overcome it in the long run, and you can, but it took me longer than it needed to. I could have done it 10, 15 years before I did, and it's a shame I didn't. But I'm here now, and I'm here to stay.
And that's it, and you're very good at what you do, or I wouldn't trust you to take over for me.
Oh, you dumped me right in it. It was funny.
And that's what I did. I remember my show in Inverness. I work very spontaneous. If Spirit says she's very sensitive, I'm going to find a way to get her involved in my show or him, because I think if you do it without thinking, that's the best time. If you just do something spontaneous or you give that thought, it's like I always go with my first thought. There's different types of, and go back to that guy's question. And we're just going to say a quick hello to everybody that's coming on. Lynn, Lindsay, Pedro, Heather Lane, Heather Gibson, and Pauline, and everybody else that's on. Say hello, you know.
Hello to everybody that's on. You know, I'm wondering about this feed that we've got here, Derek, because it doesn't feel like all the comments are coming up on it. So we could be missing a few, couldn't we? Because because there's too many. We might be on too many different platforms between the two of us.
It could be because I've got Angela, my cousin. She's saying fearless, faithful, and freedom. That's what she's just said.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, and we'll pick them up, like the questions, and we should.
So we apologise to anyone who we seem to have inadvertently missed, because I think it's the first time we've both had both of our platforms, going live on it. So it's proving a slight challenge. So I apologise if we've missed anyone.
It should the chat overlay should say. It should show all the chat is coming in, because I'm streaming to my personal page and the Happy Medium page, so we catch people. But if you need to ask a question, just fire it. We'll get it somehow, or just send us a private wee text if you want. Now, getting on to kind of our intuition, right? If there's one thing today, John, kind of on the subject or thought or whatever, and on the present day, what would you say to people, to everyone out there today? The one thing you would say, what's the first thought that comes into your head?
The first thought keep going. Keep going. These are, I mean, this has been my first thought for a little while, though. It just comes into my head just to keep saying this, just keep going, because it's not just the fact that we've had all the challenges over the last few years and all the craziness over the last 10 years, one way or another, with all the different things that has created polarized perspectives and thoughts, people arguing with each other, falling out over different political things and all the rest of it. But that's on top of everything else that was going on in our lives before that, and it has been very, very challenging for everybody. And I think a lot of people maybe don't even realize or appreciate just how much of a challenge that they have been dealing with over the time. And are going, well, I've been feeling a bit down and drained the last while, and I don't know why. Well, the reason why is because that energy has been like that in the world for the last 10 years or something like that, and we just need to gather our energy and protect our energy and just keep going, so where I've ended up with this, I started with the words keep going, and what I'm going to end up with is protect your energy, look after your energy, because there's that much stuff going on around you, not just in your life, but all that energy out in the world, that you want to protect your energy, look after your physical body, look after your emotional state, look after yourself, protect your energy, do things that are good for you, walk along the beach, have a meditation, eat good food, drink fresh juice, communicate with the people who you love, get their support, give them support, do all that stuff, nurture yourself, nurture your family, nurture your friends, and do all that stuff and look after your energy and keep going.
Just speaking about that, and I'm kind of laughing to myself because I know you've had to give up something or cut it right back because of your health.
Yeah. I'll say it.
Yeah. But you found yourself, John, and you found that your energy is better by doing that.
Yes.
I mean, what you said, but
if you saw me, even a few years ago, I mean, we've been on odd occasions on an odd live for the last few years since I started doing this, and even a few years ago, I'm looking at my own little image on this little rectangle on my computer screen, and I'm looking at a kind of a generally happy, smiling face who doesn't really care, who's quite chill doing this. A couple of years ago, I was terrified, and it was also a couple of stone heavier. I just went to see the asthma nurse yesterday, and I got weighed, and she said I'd lost 10 kilos since the last time I was weighed, which I think is about 1.5 stone altogether in the last couple of years, which is amazing. And it's unbelievable just how healthier and better and happier generally that I feel every day because of that. And it just means that those challenges that I do experience during life, whether it's work challenges or personal challenges, are actually easier to deal with. I'm not saying they're easy, but they're easier, they're better to deal with. I can manage to deal with them so much better just because I'm in such a healthier place generally, emotionally. psychologically and physically. And that's why that's why I made that point. Just look after yourself. Just do it. It makes a massive difference.
And I think, I think you're right. I think I remember, something on Facebook this week, and Ian White, who was a mentor of mine when I was in the BNI, it's a British Business Network thing, and he was extremely overweight, and he was such a happy, loving person. It didn't matter his weight, but he decided to do something about it, and he's lost something like 15 stone or something.
Wow.
And he did it with cycling, and I love cycling and stuff. I just got back on a bike, and my bum is a bit raw. So I have to look at the saddle.
I know that, yeah. I know that feeling.
Only because my wee daughter's here, we've got her a bike, and I've been going out, and I've been loving because I forgot how much I enjoyed it. And I lost a lot of weight too when I get more physical on the bike in the countryside, and it helped my meditation because I was out just enjoying some water and juice with a wee one, and just loving being outdoors. Hence the gardening too. But one thing that Ian was a little bit down because he's had stuff going on in his life, and you won't mind me saying this, and it's due to more of the physical stuff around him, his living conditions and stuff, because he'd something happen in the house and they've had to go in hotels and stuff. And he started eating a bit more, not getting the same exercise. And then he's feeling a bit down, and his wife showed him a photo of a video of what he was like when he was overweight. He did his first 50-mile cycle or something, or it was something mega, right? And he was extremely overweight, but he still was on that cycle. And you see him now, it says, he's a totally different person than what you were then. Yeah, you may have put on a stone, but you're not 15 stone heavier, And you've recognised that earlier, because I recognise when I put on weight and I've got to watch with diabetes, you recognise it earlier. And I think that's what we're saying to people is the best person to police yourself is you. And if you feel you need to change, you will change. Once you get that trigger and saying, oh, I need to do something about that. I've seen that photo. I don't like it. You can change it. And it's not always bad to have that feeling because it inspires you. Because it's so easy, John, to fall back into the trap because of work, because of maybe families or whatever. We forget to do that things for ourselves, like taking that walk, like doing that run, like going out on the bike or sitting out in the garden and doing some gardening.
Yeah, you have to know yourself that you need to do it. More than that, you have to want to do it. Ultimately, the thing that motivates us, basically, in everything that we do, is that we do the things that we really want to do, and we will find excuses, justifications to not do the things that we don't really want to do. And if you're not really ready to do something, then you'll find reasons to not do it. I guarantee you that if you really want to look after yourself, then you will look after yourself. And that's the missing link. That's the missing factor. You need to know that you need to do it. Absolutely. More than that, you need to want to do it, because that's the thing that really empowers you. So you know what you're looking for now. You know what mindset that you're aiming for at this point. Know what you need, but also know what you want and act on that.
Yeah, and I think we've got to marry the wants and needs, because I remember saying to somebody, he says, and a part of a life coaching strategy is, if you like a letter to yourself, right, from the future, and it's just like, and I remember the first one I wrote, it was December, I was feeling a bit low, just left away from it, doing a life coaching course and all that, and I put, Dear Derek, from Derek. It's like going to the railway station to meet a new girlfriend, because obviously I was wanting a new girlfriend because I just left the wife. More spiritually aware, I put that down, and as if it was happening. And I put down even a lottery win. I put a wee win at the lottery, and more time with my kids, all that sort of stuff. And I wrote it down in a letter, and I put the 4th of July on the date that was this was happening. Right.
Independence Day. Interesting.
No, it was actually. Yeah, I don't know. I must have been watching a movie or something, John. It's like
no. Just interesting because you just had a breakup and then you settled this for Independence Day.
So
interesting synchronicity,
So that was my thought. That must have been my guys taking a mickey at that time. You think about it. Now, when the 4th of July came around, it was a Saturday, and this letter I kind of written, kind of fell out of a drawer. When you're looking for something, there's that letter I wrote. And I started reading it, and I was more detailed in what I'm saying. I went, I just came back from a week at the Spiritualist College down in Stansted, so that was me more spiritually aware. And I wrote down I wanted a car, and I had my car fixed, and my car was being fixed that week, no electrical problems, it was running great. And I had more time with the kids, it was like every second weekend, it was more structured. And I had this lovely kind of feeling, oh, this is great, positive thinking, the law of attraction, all that stuff, right? Great. But there's a but. 2 weeks later, I get ditched by the girlfriend. Never got with your sister's best mate. It's like, and we know who that is. And I had the kids nearly every weekend, which ended up me having them full time, so that was hard work. And I had the car broke down again. It was fuel injectors, which to say that it wasn't covered by warranty, so that was an expensive one. And the only thing I really needed was the spiritual awareness and stuff. So that made me think about my wants and needs, right? And it's like down what I'm drawn to. It's like marrying my wants and my needs together because I didn't need some of the stuff that I wrote down when I thought about it afterwards. And so all the letters now have been very, very positive and well thought out. So yes, you get what we want, John. And as the genius says, you get what you want, but sometimes we will need what we want.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between need and greed, isn't it? But yeah, it's like, as you say, Derek, it's actually a very good idea to kind of marry up your wants and needs in that way that kind of keeps them realistic and reasonably achievable, is what I'd say. So, for example, while there's nothing necessarily wrong with winning the lottery, for example, it's one that I wouldn't necessarily put down in a letter to myself in that way, because I would want to keep it to things that are, things that I both want and need, and also things that are reasonably achievable, because again, this kind of brings in goal setting, doesn't it? When you think about it, an intention setting and these kind of concepts are more life coach concepts as opposed to spiritual concepts. But if you combine these different avenues of thought and you can bring them together into a kind of manifestation of everything that you actually want to need, that will start coming to you. But it takes kind of just doing it in the right way, not just assuming the law of attraction will make things land in your lap, because it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and you're right. And just get on to, I'm just getting a wee message here from my loved one. It's like, I'm just noticing there's a couple of people asking for some messages, so we'll maybe go into the message part of you could say the show. And what I want to say to people, if you want a card, just put the word card up. And if you've got a question you want to ask, take advantage of having two experienced intuitives, as John would say.
I like how I've got you to say that instead of psychic. Can we change the name of the sign now as well?
Well, you know me, I take the mickey out of things anyway, and I use a bit of humour.
Yeah.
But I think, it's like there's Bridget Gale Young, and she's saying, "Hi, any messages from Spirit, please?" And I presume that sometimes our mediumship connections, and then bear in mind, folks, that we are limited to so much what we can say, and it's always best to get a private session. But Bridget, I'm feeling frustrated when I tune into you, right? And I also feel that it's time to take that step back for you. And I'm seeing animals around you for some reason, so maybe there's that unconditional love. Maybe you've been feeling a little bit rejected yourself lately. But I'm going to pull a wee card here for you, and I'm just shuffling it now. And the first card that comes out, and the first thought as well. Before the card, the thought is inspire, right? And I've got the Empress card here, right? And the Empress is independent, right? She's very, very loving. She can be a bit stubborn and a bit bitchy, the Empress, because you have to be, right? And it's saying to me that you need to take control back and be the Empress, be the leader. And sometimes we've got to learn to say no, Bridget. So, keep being positive, because I think you are deep down a positive person, but you just lack that motivation. And I feel there's a lot of good things coming around the corner for you, because I'm looking at the end of October for some really good news. Right. So if you want more information, give us a wee shout and book a session or something like that. John. Here's Lindsay is looking for a wee card, and she said hi to the both of us earlier on. And
Yes.
I'm going to
Hello,
do that
Lindsay.
because I'm just going to nip away because I think I'm hearing somebody at my door, but I'll put you on the screen there just now.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay,
John,
Lindsay.
I think we
Oh,
should-
look at this. I've suddenly got bigger. Well, hello, Lindsay, and how are you today? Thank you for saying hello. So I'm just having a little wee shuffle here. Oh, and that's it. So what have we got for Lindsay? I've got the Fool, which is quite interesting. I love the Fool card. You know, so very quickly the major arcana in tarot. I know there's a few people asking about tarot. So the major arcana in tarot, if you like, or the major secret, is about life's journey. It's about the broader aspects, the more long-term aspects, and it starts with the first card, the Fool, which is all about new beginnings and fresh starts and jumping into something new, and it ends with the World card. Which is like a major or significant completion, and what a completion is followed by something new. So what we've got, Lindsay, here is a potential for something new, which is either something that's been, manifesting for you recently, or something that's likely to come soon. I feel like saying something's already started here, because this is just the thing that's made me talk about the full journey through the major arcana through the course of his life. I feel like saying he's recently arrived at some form of completion, is now having a new fresh start. So this fresh start is very positive for you. I feel like saying, Lindsay, put your best foot forward, as opposed to this fool is in danger of jumping off a cliff edge. Put your best foot forward, but do so with reasonable care. As it's always important to do. So I've also got I've also got these other cards here, the soul coaching cards, and you have an extra bonus one for me, which is opening. I am open to receiving the gifts of the universe, which is an excellent affirmation to have for yourself when you're approaching or in this place where you have a new beginning. So new beginnings can also be a little bit scary and intimidating to us sometimes. But again, that fool's energy is all about jumping right in and being fearless about it. So just go ahead and jump in, be a little bit fearless, but remember to take some care and put your best foot forward. Don't jump off the cliff edge. But here's a great affirmation: I am open to receiving the gifts of the universe. So be open to that and receive. Okay. I do hope that helped.
Fantastic, John.
Yeah.
And I've got Lynn. She's wanting a wee card, and Lynn.
Hello, Lynn.
Lynn. I'll just do a quick couple of cards each for me and you, John, because we both know Lynn. So we'll just
sing a Lynn.
I see something. I see a big event for you coming up, Lynn, and you'll be singing away there or playing away the guitar. She's an amazing musician. But stand your ground. Somebody's upsetting you. Don't know who it is, but you just stand your ground. I feel it's within the family. And second card there is let your friends help you, right? So maybe she went for a wee visit. Get some chilling out time. John, over to you. Quickly.
Quickly. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough then. What is this card? I've not looked at it myself yet. So this is the Hangman. Yeah. What are you hanging around for, Lynn? Get on with it. Don't hang around. Why are you hanging around? Sometimes things are delayed a little bit. Okay, sometimes we do take a step back. Sometimes we have to relax and let go of moving forward so that we can regather our thoughts. And perhaps you've kind of been in that place for a little while in some respects. But just, don't hang around forever. It's time to get going again. Okay.
And we've got Claire. See, I gave her a reading the last time. Claire, she's glad you came on here. I would love any messages. Thanks for your last one was spot on. So, John, I'm putting you under pressure today because.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I don't mind.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
What pressure? What pressure?
See?
Okay. Hello, Claire, and how are you today? So now what have we got here? Glad I came on here in time. Would love any messages. Thanks. Your last one was spot on for me. So that was the last one was Derek. So I hope I can. I hope I can follow. I hope I can follow. Well then. Well, let's see. Okay, I feel like cutting here. And what have we got? Nice to meet you as well, Claire. And we've got the Four of Pentacles here. Yeah, what do you feel you need to hold on to? Because you seem to be holding tight onto something, afraid to lose it, afraid to let go is what I feel like saying. So what you're holding on to, sometimes you can, again, take a step back and look at what you have. The Four of Pentacles sometimes mistakenly called a miser. Sometimes it just indicates a need to look after your finances. It just means looking out for your financial security. And I feel like saying perhaps you should look out for your financial security, but not to the point where it's becoming an emotional stress for you, is what I feel like saying. This chap has moved himself out of town and is walking away from all those people and places where he's previously had support. So don't walk away from where you've had previous support from. Don't hold on to everything you have to the point where you where you have strains with relationships and friendships and things like that. So looking after your finances also means remembering the people around you as well, and not doing so to the point where you're creating stress for yourself. That's what I feel like. I don't know why I feel like saying that. It's not strictly speaking what that card means usually, but it's just what's coming to me, and so I hope it does make some sense to you. Look out for the money side of things, but not to the point where it's creating stress for you. Take a step back from it and know you're well organized, and you'll be fine moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got a little thank you from Lindsay there for you, John.
Good.
Well,
Thank you very much.
I've got Michelle here, so I'll do Michelle. I'll just change it over.
You'll do Michelle. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. I'll just get that there. I'm going to pull some angel cards because I love doing angel cards, and my wife now, Angela, she's Angel A Therapies, and she just loves the angel cards. And she left this card on the table last night, so this must be for you, Michelle. So I'm going to pull a couple here, but I feel good things are coming for you, right? So now is the time to learn, study, and gather information. Enjoy being a student, because in the future you will synthesize your knowledge into action. So I feel you could be learning something new, it could be a new technique, and it's something to do with work. So there's something coming up that you're learning. I don't feel it's a mega big course or anything like that. It's maybe something you're doing new, and you deserve the best. Reach for the stars with your dreams, and desires don't compromise. I also see that there's been a little bit of, how do you say this, untruths around you. I'm not saying that somebody's lying, but I say that sometimes you have to listen to the words, and then try and match them with the actions. And if the words and actions don't mix, then there's a warning. So there's a little bit of a warning coming from Spirit World there. And it's basically saying, if you spend time alone in nature, meditating about your desires and intentions, ask the angels to help you gain a positive perspective, because sometimes things aren't moving fast enough for you. So they're saying, don't worry, spend time alone and the answers will come. And I also feel that there's some good news regarding a family member as well coming up. But you need to kind of, how do you say, be in control of you just now, because sometimes you're getting sidetracked by other people. And that's quite common in life, John, isn't it?
Yes. Being sidetracked is it's been the story of my life. It's getting sidetracked. I can't get anything done for getting sidetracked. But yes, I mean, sometimes the head is just full of too many different things, and we're trying to do so many different things, or thinking about so many different things that we want to do, that we just don't end up doing any of them. Okay, and then you get kind of stuck. And so a good thing to do is to write down all the 20 or 30 different things that you want to do, right? And then look at this list again and then cut it right down to the top 3 or 4 or 5 at the most, right? And when you get down to that, decide which one's more important, put them in order. And then what to do is, let's say you've got 5, right? Start doing those from number 1 through 5. Start doing them, right? And all the other 15, throw them away. They no longer exist. Just forget about them completely. Yeah. Because as long as you're trying to think of the 20, you'll never do them. You'll never do any of them. So cut it right down to 5 and start at number 1, and the other 15 chuck. Okay, and that's some straight up advice from me. That's it. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Hopefully that helps someone. It feels like it must have been needed for someone.
Yeah, I've got Angela Seagull. She's not. She's showing up on the other platforms. What's the green ones? I don't know if it's YouTube or what. It's like it could be a WhatsApp one. So she would love a wee card. So it's for Angela. The two of us can do something.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Cool.
I'll pull a wee shuffling away here, thinking about you. I've got frustration around you, and I've also got I'm not getting a clear head. So this is what it's kind of saying. I'm not looking at what's in front of me sometimes. I'm not getting that clarity is the word. And I feel that maybe you're too much in your head. It's maybe grounding yourself, because sometimes we can be too much up there. And it's kind of saying, I need to do some grounding work. And that's sometimes just like walking on the grass in bare feet. Swimming is good grounding, and eating properly and stuff like that also helps. But I feel being around people like yourself, who's like-minded, will help you, because you're ready to jump off the cliff into something new, but you haven't quite left the baggage behind yet. And that's what's stopping you moving forward. You've got the dog at your feet, and I feel sometimes that dog is dragging you. So it's, let the dog go free sometimes. There's a message in that, and that's will let you move forward. So sometimes who's how do you say, pulling me back, we need to let them go. And it's a loving thing to do that, because it breeds independence as well. Don't know what you're picking up, John?
Well, as soon as you started talking, I had a feeling that the advice that I just gave before we started on Angela might have actually applied to her as well.
Yeah.
As possibly Michelle. So I've got the Knight of Cups. So I don't know. I'm looking at this. The kind of aspect of this knight is kind of crossing water. It's like moving from one place to another. It's what I feel like saying. So it just feels like you might be moving from one place to another. The knight doesn't necessarily always represent a person. It can represent a situation. I'm not sure whether you're picking up something around a person around them, Derek. I've got a feeling there's someone around you. I'm not sure whether this is an offer you should take or not. It's something that you have to discern for yourself, but it does involve some kind of travel, some kind of movement somewhere else.
Yeah, I've got the same. Yeah. Looking at the glow, wanting to move. Now that could be wanting to move on emotionally or spiritually, and I do feel that, because I do feel the person that's around is mother, right?
Okay.
And mother has a very feminine energy around you, and we've got a connection both to that mother figure. So it's difficult for me sometimes, but there is a mother person there, and she's pushing you, loving you, and also she's wanting you to gain that independence and clear thinking. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I had into my head popped the Seven of Cups, literally the image of the Seven of Cups when you were drawing, when you first got the first card there, and that kind of represents lack of focus. And I just had this image of the character, this dark shadow of a character looking up at these Seven Cups with all the different items in them, not knowing which direction to go in. And so I really feel like for you as well, and what you're looking for is trying to discover or find your focus. And perhaps you just want to take a little step back and think about my earlier advice. When I spoke about when you've got 20 different things in your head, maybe you want to think about that a little bit and find your focus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just demonstrating card readings there. I'll just get back to that one. Just taking a step back, an overview. Let's go back to some chat to see who's paired. I don't know what it means when they say paired, John. Is that somebody paired with us? Or it's Deary? No, I like that. 0723.
I think that's Twitch. Is that Twitch when it comes up?
Yeah, I think it's Twitch, yeah. And we are live on Twitch, so if there's viewers coming on Twitch, I'm trying to build
maybe it's just saying that because that's something about Twitch. It's saying that we're both live on Twitch. I don't know.
But it's like, and there is a person there, so feel free if you're coming on Twitch to ask a question, because we're getting questions up here. And our subject today was like dealing with rejection, but just now we're just demonstrating some card readings, and as we said earlier on, that cards are there to give us advice. It's not, you don't have to take that advice, but we're also using it as a channeling tool. Now, I would say I'm more of an intuitive reader, and John, you were more of a card reader in the early days, although you're combining the two now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a spiritual life coach, and so what I find is my entirety of 58 years worth of life experience, combined with spiritual life coaching, combined with other courses I've done, including numerology, and symbology, and also including the tarot cards and other oracle cards that I use. And obviously intuition, as it's been developing over the last few years as well. And I bring all that together to try to bring potential answers, and guidance, to help answer a question. But again, it's all about free will, and it's about taking it really with a pinch of salt to a certain extent, not taking it too seriously, but taking a step back and looking at it with an open mind and saying, how might this help me make better decisions for myself moving forward so that my life gets better? Because it's really all about your life getting better. It isn't about the reading. It's about what that information can do for you, to help you guide yourself and make better choices for yourself.
And it's you're spot on. And I think it's if you want a wee card there, DRE 00723, like this 00723, good numerology, and I do numerology quite a bit, and that's taking me to 12, which is a good number, a very divine number. It takes you down to 3 when you add them all up, and 7's a lucky number. 2 and 3 is quite powerful because you get the High Priestess and the Empress there as well, and the Chariot. Just doing a wee reading there on his numerology.
Okay, I've got you. Yes, 12.
The double O is the Fool, because we sometimes call it the double O card. Is the Fool card. So it's like taking a risk, being foolish, and going against the grain. So if that's any information for you there, just doing a bit of numerology in your name there, it's very positive. So it's a positive name there, and I do feel that there's some people coming in your life soon. So it's quite quiet, John, today. Maybe because we're on at this time, we're not in an evening. But if people want to ask any questions on the subject that we've had today, dealing with rejection, or if we like a wee card, we've not seen anyone asking just now on all the platforms. And failing that, we'll just go off and have another cup of tea together, John.
I know, yeah. I've still got my tea here. I was speaking about juice earlier and living healthy and all the rest of it. Look, I have orange and mango.
So the tins of tenants doesn't happen anymore.
Definitely not at this time of day. I basically just cut out most alcohol. It's not like I wasn't killing myself with it, but I just needed to curb it to have a better, healthier lifestyle. And so I cut out most alcohol and just now, like 1 or 2 bottles of bud now and again instead of several pints. So this is a main part of how I managed to lose all the weight. It's good.
It is amazing, and you did it. You did it very
naturally. I did it. Yeah, I did.
It wasn't forced on you. You did it very naturally, and you took to it very well.
Over time, naturally, over time, and that's the way to do it. I think we just all need to look after our physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies at the moment. And again, as I said earlier on, perhaps anyone who might not have been on then, we need to do that. We need to look after our own physical vessels. We need to look after, nurture ourselves, and nurture those around us who care about us, and have that support network, because we all need that in these difficult times.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have friends. As I was saying, it's good to have, and we've known each other a long, long time, John.
Oh yes, since we were teenagers, and we're getting on a bit now. Then so
and it's good to have that friendship, and very few people can say they've got close friends and colleagues, and we've got many friends who are close who are not into our stuff, John, but we found we are, but they accept us for who we are, and I think that's the secret, is you accept yourself for who you are, and you accept others for who they are. We don't have to agree with them, and we accept their point of view as well, and we can just agree to disagree. It's a very easy word to say. I'll tell you what, we'll just agree to disagree. And I get too many people coming in, they say they're arguing, saying, well, you just agree to disagree and get on with it.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to that. Again, that's the thing about polarization. I mean, anyone who wants to know what my view is on polarization can go to my new podcast channel, because I think it was my second or third let alone have 3 or 4 podcasts on it so far because it's so new. But it's not something. My second or third episode was on polarization and about the way that all of this has come about over the last 10 years or so, especially where people are literally becoming estranged from people who are important to them, just because they disagree on something. And this is something that we need to try to, move away from and try to start to engage with each other more again. And as Derek says, agree to disagree, be willing to accept that someone else has another point of view and still love them for who they are.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that's the good way to finish on it is just loving people for who they are. And no matter what opinions we have, and we know a lot of that is aimed at the vaccine or the COVID stuff, because we have views that a lot of people didn't like at the time. And it's funny you're saying that, John. I was doing some video editing, and I started watching some old videos that I did during the first couple of weeks of lockdown in 2020. And I was in hospital then with something similar I had last month, and it was totally different. And I came out of there and I'm questioning things because obviously the TV played a major part of the role I was feeling then, because everybody was glued to the telly because this had never happened before in our lives. No matter what we thought of TV, we were getting hooked into it all. And in the hospital, fearful, COVID, didn't have COVID, had something else. Started to relax, and I had an out-of-body experience. And I've spoken about this before. And it was like, out of the body, and I said to myself, am I dead? Because I was seriously ill. And then I got this heavy feeling back into the body, and this hairy-faced nurse coming up and saying, you're seriously ill, and you get fluid in you. And that gave me like a new sense of hope. And it was like, it's like an awakening even more. And it's just like, you're alive, start living your life. What are you worrying about dying for? We're all going to die. We're all going to go into a different form or dimension, whatever we think or what we believe. But I think the way we should end this, and this is about dealing with rejection as well, John, is learn to live.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of dealing with rejection just now as well is the fact that opinions on so many topics now are so polarized because we're being rejected by people who we've cared about for a long time, or some of us are, just because our opinions are different about something, and we kind of have to learn to let that go and again just keep going. Like saying earlier, just keep going. Look after yourself, not to those around you who are important to you, and who care for you as well, and just keep going. And don't let it all drag you down.
Yeah. Thanks, Lindsay. She's just got away just now. And thanks to everybody who's tuned in and listened into our subject. And, people watch it on repeat or whatever. And I'll edit some of it. And, we don't need to edit. I'll put it up on YouTube as well. And again, thanks again, John. Hang on after close off. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and we hope to make these more regular, and especially on the Twitch platform and YouTube and stuff like that. We will be doing some really good subjects, really good things, and we're going to have different guests as well. And also, we've both got the Psychic Breakfast Show, and once we get up early enough and decide what day we're going to do it on, John, around your work, we'll get back into the Psychic Breakfast Show as well, which we will hope to do some live. I'm going to do a live one from my garden, and hopefully you can get up for that, John. And some exciting live readings, as in doing a face-to-face reading with people as well, and seeing the difference to compare to online and stuff when you're actually getting feedback straight away. So there'll be lots of exciting things coming up. I've got a show on the 2nd in Inverness at the Chieftain Hotel on 2nd of September. And 23rd, I've got one in Buckie. I'm in Buckie for the first time in a long time. And the last time I was in Buckie, I was just quite before Buckie. It was Friday the 13th, 2020. And look what happened after that. And the Monday was shut down in March the 13th of 2020. And I've also got a massive one coming up in Elgin Cinema, John, the old cinema.
Oh, okay, that sounds cool.
So that'll be exciting. And if you're free, maybe get you up for that as well. So there's lots of events I've got coming up, and I love doing what I do on stage as well, and I love interacting because it's not about me, it's about the audience as well, and it's about spirit chat. I'm just a guy in the middle. I'm just a medium.
The happy medium.
That's it, the happy, positive medium. So look out for all the events coming up on my Facebook and the website. And John, is always around to help and assist as well. And
Absolutely. Anyone looking for me can find me at johnsoracle.com.
we normally have it on the skewer, but we need to give you it next time, John. I think it's on.
I'm amazed that you don't have my website at a handy click by now. I'm so offended. I'm so offended that you don't have my website written down there at a handy click in your favourites.
It's on the introduction. I need to get it on the software. Yeah. But you'll find them, John the Oracle. I like to call it.
johnsoracle.com. Or just search John's Oracle on Google, and you'll find my business bit there, and you'll be able to find my website there as well.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, we'll say cheerio to you out there, and